𝒂𝒓𝒕𝒏𝒈 It's a pleasure to come your way. It's another bright and cold Saturday morning where the temperatures have all gone farming. And I'm pleased to come your way with yet another episode of 𝒂𝒓𝒕𝒏𝒈. Now, there's been a time change. It's the end of daylight savings, and so there's been a disruption in the usual timing. So we coming your way an hour earlier than we used to come. And I would have to want to apologize for coming your way a couple of minutes late. So thank you for joining us again. Always a pleasure to come your way. And as always, let's take a moment to share the feed. Let's take a moment to inform everyone else that we on. So as usual, we take a few seconds to go share the feed, and then we can get started. So let's do this. It's an exciting morning on all fronts, right? So yeah, let's make it count. And depending on where you are, it could be evening, it could be afternoon. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of us. Let me just get this done and then we can get started. Let me also share. Can't find my share button. Let me see. Oh no, I can't find my share button. Give me a couple more seconds to look for my share button, and okay, yeah, found it. And as always, when you join, please do well to shoot a hello, a hi, so we can bring you into the conversation, and that makes it more exciting. It makes it more fun and all. Right. So today, and hopefully you've been able to share yours as well, right? So let's get going. Today, I mean, as usual, Sami has shared topics for us to discuss. And so let's get right in. And again, if you have, which you definitely have, I mean, your opinion about whatever we're discussing, just join in and then we can all learn together. So today, Sami wants us to look at spending in relationships or in marriages, or I mean, whatever that may be. So you can have, and this topic is pretty tricky, right? Because it goes deeper than we might think. You get two people come together, they want to do life together. It does not necessarily mean that at that point they have it all figured out. It doesn't mean that they have their ducks in a row at that point. So it requires that those two people try to get together, understand themselves, try to know the ins and outs of the other person's life, try to understand how the other person approaches life, right? Now, remember that depending on when these two people meet, they might have lived a huge chunk of their lives already, and they've picked up habits, they've picked up traits, they've picked up lifestyles, and they've sort of formed their lives around all that. So you would see someone who is pretty frugal and wouldn't just spend for the sake of spending, wouldn't just follow the flow to spend. And you would see someone who is happy-go-lucky, like feels like life is meant to be lived, and will go all out to sorry, will go all out to enjoy whatever money that comes their way. Now, it does not necessarily make any of them bad. or any of them better, right? It's just their perspective of life that they are manifesting. And so you get to meet someone and you feel that this is a person I'm interested in, this is a person I want to do life with. This is a very important aspect you will need to get into. This is a very important aspect you will need to understand, right? So there are general principles when it comes to spending. So regardless of what each person has as their lifestyle, there are general principles to how money should be spent and how we should go about handling money and so on and so forth. And so you will need to know if this person you are interested in is one who is aligned with those principles. And it could even be that you yourself is not aligned, right? You don't have much in-depth insight into how money is supposed to be handled. Now, if you realize that, then it's worth also trying to educate yourself, because whatever you think is how money should be handled is not might not necessarily be right, right? So if both of you can come to that understanding, then we are at a point where at least you've built a foundation that you working on, right? So um if, for example, you've gone to meet someone who really spent money. I mean, it could be because of the background, it could be because of the upbringing and so on and so forth. Then you will need to try to understand the person's perspective of life as well. Think about it. If someone grew up in a family where there was so much, there was abundance at every point in time, it wouldn't be a problem for the person to be out there going to fancy restaurants, be wearing fancy clothing and enjoying life as it were. But if you also are in a relationship or trying to get married to someone who was in a place of lack his or her whole life, then the person's outlook when it comes to spending might not be as the first person that I described. That person might be more drawn towards trying to save, trying to be frugal, because they wouldn't want a situation where they get back into lack, right? And so it all depends on how we grew up, how people look at money, how people approach money, and so on and so forth. Now, the most important thing to do here is not to necessarily align to one person's way of doing things. The best approach here is to understand the rationale behind whatever the person is doing. So think about it this way. If you can understand why someone does something, then you are able to either go with it, or if there is any suggestions you want to prescribe, you are able to do that. Because when you understand what the root cause is, then you are in a good position to actually proffer solutions or what have you. So, that said, the first thing to do is not to just try to jump in and try to advise and so on and so forth. Understand what the background of the person is and why the person thinks in a certain way, right? Again, like I told you, if someone has grown up in a place where there was a lot of lack, the person will not be drawn to spending anyhow. And it's not because the person is stingy or whatever, but the person has something he's thinking, processes subconsciously that, hey, I don't want to get into this place of lack. So sometimes you see those people ending up over saving sometimes, or for some people over investing, because the mindset is, hey, I don't want to get into a situation where I get into poverty again. So and most times what I've discovered is people easily pass judgment on such people rather than trying to understand them. In the same way, if you have someone who spends a lot, try to understand the person. Probably the person had a relative who hoarded a lot of money and died and left everything, and foolish people came to spend it. So because of that, the person took wisdom from that and has advised himself or herself that, hey, if I make the money, I'm going to spend it. Tomorrow I die. And yeah, so it's best to try to understand the person's viewpoint, and then it's easier to find a solution from there. The truth is, with what I've seen so far, you always have one person who tries to save more, and another person who tries to like spend more. It's always. I mean, I don't think you can really get two people at the same level. There will definitely be one who wants to spend more than the other, right? Again, don't quickly pass judgment. Hey, why do you like buying clothes so much? Why do you like eating at fancy restaurants so much? Why do you like buying certain types of cars? Or it would be best to try to understand your partner and then decide to, choose whatever path it is that you want to follow. The reality is that money is a huge factor when it comes to relationships or marriages. If you can't get your finances sorted out, or you can't come to an understanding of how you want to drive your finances, it could easily lead up to divorce. So these are things that you need to really spend time understanding, spend time knowing. I have spoken to people who tell me that I don't go to chain restaurants being like KFC, where you have the same, like more like a franchise running, you have the same restaurants in so many places. They say they don't go to chain restaurants. Are they bad people? No. Does it mean they are of a certain class? I don't know. Whatever class they've put themselves in. But you will need to try to understand and figure out, especially if you are not married, and I would assume that you will try to get to the bottom of such things before you even get married. You will need to try to understand such a person and figure out if this is someone you want to live with or not. This is why um, your job as someone who is in a relationship is not to be going around having sex around all over the place, but to try to understand these very salient issues or factors before you commit to someone. So when you see two people who are divorced, it's not because they are bad people. It's not because they did not have ambition. It's not because um, they don't understand what marriage means in the sight of God. Sometimes it's just because these really pertinent issues were not addressed at the beginning of the relationship. So, again, it is very important to understand what your spouse is like when it comes to spending, and have a good conversation with yourself to know how to go about that. One other thing I would want to point out is that, see, the reality is that um, if you can meet up the expectations of whichever person it is, then you are sure that you can get married to the person. So it's two things. If you speak to, let me, and ladies, forgive me for using this example. If you meet up a lady and it looks like the lady is someone who is of a certain class. I don't like using class because why would human beings want to classify themselves or break or group themselves into classes? It doesn't make sense to me. But if you are, if like you are in a relationship with someone who spends, right? It's two things. It's either you run for your life, or you take it that, okay, that would be motivation enough for me to work hard in life. It's two things. If you like the latter, okay, it's fine. Go. If you love your life, then you run away. Now, in the same vein, if you also have someone who doesn't like spending, then your motivation could be that, okay, this is someone who can help me save and build up stuff and so on and so forth. There are also different categories of the spenders. There are those that would say that, hey, it's not like every now and then I'll go out to spend, to shop, to do whatever, I'll go to a restaurant or blah blah blah. But once in a while, I would want to do A, B, C, right? So again, you just need to understand all that. If that person doesn't align to you, the beauty of the person or how nice the person speaks or whatever wouldn't matter in time to come, right? So again, very very important. Decide on whether your partner is someone you really want to go with because of how the person views money. Now, that said, let me try to give a brief overview of the standard principles we should be looking at when it comes to money, so that just in case the two of you view money differently and you are asking yourselves, okay, how should we actually approach it? Let me try to bring it across the board. Money can be two things. Number one, money could be considered as a seed, and money could also be considered as a fruit. So, as you trying to come together, trying to make money together, trying to live life together, any money that comes to you, you could either see it as a seed or as fruits. Now, if you consider every money that comes to you as a fruit and you eat it, then later in life, when you look back, there wouldn't be anything for you to dwell on, right? And so um, it is too extreme for you to just consider money as a seed where everything that comes in, you want to sow it for the future. That's also too extreme. And on the flip side, it's also too extreme to consider money as um, a fruit, so that everything that comes, you want to eat it right there. So you should have a good balance between living for the now and living for the future. So you guys can decide that, hey, okay, with whatever money that comes in, we are considering X% as our seed towards our future, and we're considering the Y% that will be left as what we will spend for now. Because you see, the reality is that if you look at both sides, you wouldn't want to be saving for a future and you go hungry and not be there for that future. That's the reality. And you wouldn't also want to be spending money as if there is no future, right? So that's where you draw the right balance to know how to spend it. But if you don't remember anything at all from here, remember that it's two. That's the principle. Money is a seed, and money can also be a fruit. Don't spend all your money that comes to you as if there is no tomorrow. That is you treating money just as a fruit. And don't go invest or save all the money that comes to you as if there is no today, because that would mean that like you won't live life, like you just be living for the future. And there is also a disadvantage to that, obviously, because you don't want to, you want some life in your days, right? You want to have some life in your days. You don't want to grow and be 80 years and you've amassed all the money in the world, but you can't even use it for anything, right? Because as at then you don't have the strength to do all that. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm summarizing all that we've said so far. Number one, before you decide to commit to someone, know how the person approaches money. Know if it is someone who is just drawn to spending, or is someone who is drawn to saving, and decide. So number two, decide if that is someone you want to live with, if that is someone you think you can do life with. Then number three, I shared on what the general principles of money is. So number one, remember, money is either a fruit or a seed. Now, if you're treating money as a fruit, it means that you're just going about spending anything that comes to you because you are considering it as the reward of your labor. If you're treating money as a seed, it means that you will try to save it for the future. And what I'm saying is that, or sow it for the future by saving or investing, but more investing, because that's what reaps rewards. So decide to come to a consensus on what amount of money or what percentage of your money that comes in that you're going to use as a seed and what you're going to treat as a fruit. And if you're able to do that, then at least you get some balance in your life. Thank you all for joining us, and it's been a pleasure coming your way. Thanks for joining us, Pastor Luis. He said very true. Samuel says very true as well. So let us know your thoughts, and we'll come your way next week with yet another episode of the Evan. Thanks for joining us, and it's bye for now. Cheers.